Another one of our webinars. It's one that I personally have been really looking forward to. We've got lots of guests. In fact, it's the most guests we've had on a webinar, I think, so far. And today, what we're going to be looking at, or this evening, is we're going to be looking at PlanIt. So it's our off-the-shelf curriculum that is really useful for home educators. So I'm going to start by introducing everybody to the webinar. So first of all, good evening to Louise, and good evening to Gemma, and good evening to Beth. And I was just saying that this is the first webinar I think we've had where we have had 4 guests, and I'm feeling very sad that I don't have a funky background. So welcome everybody. So I don't know if you quickly want to just introduce yourself and your role in PlanIt to everybody.
Hi, I'm Louise, and I manage PlanIt Geography. So anything to do with that, I look after.
So I'm Gemma, and I'm the equivalent of Louise, but I do the same for science and for history.
Hi, I'm Bethan, and exactly the same as Louise and Gemma, look after PlanIt, and I look after French and Spanish.
Oh, wow. So awesome. So thank you so much for joining us. So we've got lots of questions that I'm going to ask you about using PlanIt and how we can use PlanIt as effectively as possible as home educators. But those of you that are watching live, do feel free at any point to pop anything in the chat, and I will do my best to ask everybody either as we go along, or I'll take note of the question and ask at the end. So do please feel free to ask questions as we go along. But the first of all I'm going to say is, first question is to Louise, and that is, what is PlanIt? Which is probably the first question to ask, and how can it actually be useful to home educators?
Thanks, Chrissy. Well, PlanIt really is a fully resource curriculum that contains plans, PowerPoints, games, animations, ebooks, quizzes, knowledge organisers, and loads more. It was originally designed for teachers to use in the classroom, but today we want to show you the incredible value that it can have to you guys as home educators too. It can work really well for you whether you follow a more project-based child learning route or a more structured curriculum, or even for days when that overwhelm hits and you just need something to pick up and use there and then with very little prep. PlanIt is great for all your different approaches. So it's ideal if you're new to home ed. So if you aren't sure where to start, it can give you that starting point, somewhere to look for ideas, and provide a structured approach to follow if that's what you want. But if you follow a more unstructured, child-led approach, PlanIt can help you find tailored resources towards a particular topic that your child has shown an interest in. For example, if your child shows an interest in Romans, looking at the lessons and resources in PlanIt can help you narrow down the areas of this topic that they'd like to study and help you find ready-made resources that suit. If you follow that more structured approach and you like to plan in advance the subjects that you'll cover, or you like to follow the national curriculum, then PlanIt can provide that structure for each subject and year group and save you time by providing a series of fully resourced lessons. Or if you prefer to follow a completely unstructured approach, individual sessions within PlanIt can help you find resources to suit very specific child-led topics. And getting to know what's on offer could really save you time when you need to quickly pivot towards an interest or a topic.
Awesome, thank you very much. And I think that's a really key point, is that, it isn't, if you want it as a big off-the-shelf curriculum for everything, then great. But yeah, there is that mix and match approach. And hopefully, as we go through this session, our audience will kind of work out where their best fit would be with using PlanIt. And so then the obvious question, Gemma, is where can I actually find PlanIt? Where actually, would I go if I was going to look?
It's a big question, that, isn't it? Sometimes
I get lost on the Twinkl website.
And so do I, and I spend a lot of time there. Louise, thank you. So one of the quickest ways to navigate to PlanIt is to type PlanIt into the search bar. and it will take you directly to what we call our landing page. You can find PlanIt through searches, but I would highly recommend just getting to the landing page, because I think if you can get here, first of all, it's been updated recently, so we've got some nice new icons. We've got the core subjects up at the top, so we've got English, Maths and Science, and then we've got what we call our foundation subjects step lower down. If we could just click on one, and we click on history, Louise, if that's all right, not that I'm biased at all. But once you're in there, obviously you can then start to really explore what units we've got to offer. Some subjects are organised into key stages. So in history, we've got lower key stage 1, key stage 1, lower key stage 2 and upper key stage 2. And then geography, Louise, shall we go into geography? Some subjects are organised into year groups. So if obviously here we've got year 1, year 2, year 3 there. Again, what I would say on there is it does help to give you some kind of guidance, as to suppose what the national curriculum has pitched that at, but not to feel constrained at all by the age group, and just to really use the landing place to explore the different units, that subjects, topics, whatever your child is interested in, even let them explore what we've got on offer and see what they're interested in learning about and exploring.
Amazing. So Bethan, what actually would I find in a lesson pack? So I've looked at a topic my child's interested in. I've gone on to PlanIt. I've found a particular topic, and I think, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And then I download the PlanIt pack. What am I actually going to find in a lesson pack that's going to help me?
Well, you'll find slightly different things depending on which subject you choose, but more or less we've got the same kind of things, the same basic things that you'll find within them. So you'll always find a lesson plan, for example, a PowerPoint, and there'll always be some sort of differentiated activity. Now, it can be a little bit daunting sometimes because they seem quite large, these packs, and people look at them and think, oh my goodness, I don't want to do everything here. This might take me a whole hour. This might take me a little bit of time. But what we want to try and say is you can use what you want from there. We actually give you everything, and then you can kind of take out the bits that you don't want to cover or stop at the bits that you don't want to see, really. So there tends to be quite a lot of things that you can kind of dig in and go. So within a unit, because everything's grouped according to units, you'll find other things as well, such as knowledge organisers. There might be some subject guidance or adult guidance that's there. The most useful part for home editors is probably going to be our PowerPoint, because that gives the key learning points, really. It comes with aims and success criteria, and then works through a logical progression in the lesson, which is accompanied by a detailed lesson plan which will tell you everything that you need to know. Don't be afraid, really, is what we'd say, to ignore parts that are designed for classrooms, because obviously some parts require group work, which is fine if you've got a small group of people, but you might just be working with one child at home, and you might think, well, can I leave this out? Absolutely. Feel free to leave out any bits that don't work for you, and use, dip in and dip out to use what suits the needs of your child or children and your setting at home. If the activities don't always suit your style in a certain lesson, try a different one, because they do tend to vary quite a bit. That's an absolutely perfect thing I've just seen pop up from Stacey, just saying, liking to use PlanIt as a kind of springboard. And that's a fantastic way to use it. It's a great way to start off a topic. Sometimes you might just want to see how much your children have picked up in general, whether they've been in school previously and you want to kind of see, did they learn something, or have they covered something, or something that they've watched, on television, if they've seen something historical or read a book and you want to follow it up in certain ways. But, all of the packs come with the main things, which are the lesson plan, a PowerPoint, and differentiated activities. These come at 3 levels, so you can kind of pick and choose depending on your children and their needs, really, and what you feel suits them the most. French and Spanish packs have sound files, so that means you don't need to worry if you can't actually pronounce any French or Spanish yourselves. The sound files will be there for any new words, so you can click on those and all the sound files are there. And maths lesson packs always have a maths mastery-led activity to help fluency, reasoning and problem-solving skills, as well as all the differentiated activities. But by and large, you'll always find the kind of key basics, and then depending on the topics of the lesson, you might find flashcards, you might find word searches, activity sheets, you know, a whole range of different things. And across a unit, you'll see a whole variety of different activities. So as Stephanie said earlier, as Stacey said, sorry, a brilliant springboard to start your learning at home. Even if you decide, you know, not to go through the whole pack.
Bethan, can I just pick up on that with maths? I think that sometimes people notice that maths is a little bit different on PlanIt, and I don't know whether you can just. I'm putting some links in the chat as we're going, so I've put an example maths pack in the chat. I don't know if you want me to put the PowerPoint back on so that you can see some of the lesson packs. But
yes, that might be helpful actually, just to have a look. I mean, just with maths, the main thing is that the assessments that are there may also have some baseline data information and some ways to kind of work towards that. As I said, a mastery-led activity and problem-solving skills. So just a few extra sections there, just to help enhance the knowledge, really, to give you a bit more confidence at home, because I think what's often the case is that with many other subjects such as history, geography, languages, RE, they can often be taught quite organically at home and they can, you know, kind of flow. But maths is something that by its nature is always going to need a bit more structure. It's hard to kind of acquire maths knowledge without kind of always looking at these sorts of things. So there's enough scaffolding in the packs to really help you there, really.
I would kind of pick up on that in terms of we have always been very kind of child-led, but maths is something I personally, and this is just my personal experience, have always, you know, used PlanIt and a structured curriculum alongside lots of other bits and bobs and lots of manipulatives as well, because I think sometimes when they get into later primary years, they remove all those manipulatives, but actually I think it's such a great opportunity because we home ed, we don't have to use all those manipulatives. But for me, maths is something that I do every single, I wouldn't say every single day, but every single week, a few times a week, because I feel like it definitely builds and builds and builds and builds. And so for us personally, I think, you know, that those lesson packs are really useful. And then obviously the other ones are kind of, you can very much go at it from, you know, from an interest perspective, but it's nice to know that, you know, all of those things are in those maths packs. Can I just pick up a question that someone's asked, and that is, what does mastery content actually mean in the maths
packs? Well, Lisa isn't here, who is obviously our maths specialist on the team, but I worked on PlanIt Maths for quite a long time prior to doing this, so I think the mastery side of it, so obviously a lot of PlanIt, we're rewriting all of PlanIt Maths. It's taken an awful long time because there's so much of the curriculum to cover. But the mastery side of it is the sort of, we call it like the fluency, the reasoning and problem solving. So, and that's the sort of looking at sort of children, I suppose, practicing, and again, Louise and Bethan feel to chip in here, but fluency is looking at, I suppose, revisiting skills. Fluency, it's a difficult one to explain, isn't it? But fluency is,
I suppose, applying those skills, Gemma. So being able to kind of put those skills into practice in different contexts and being able to use them in different ways and to show that they've mastered the content almost.
And developing confidence in it, isn't it, the fluency? And then obviously the reasoning is then being able to use those skills in order to reason. And again, it's difficult to define between reasoning and problem solving. I'm sure Lisa would do it far better than I can, and she'll probably watch this back and say, Gemma, what did you do there? But yeah. And the packs there, it do really help explain that as well, because they do have what we call our diving into mastery. And when you look at those, you can really see the fluency, reasoning and problem solving, because you have the doing deeper, and then deepest as the little icons, and you can sort of see the difference in the type of, again, it's not to say that you do one, then the next and the other. They're definitely interchangeable according to where your child feels that what they want to do, where they feel that they are themselves and what they want to explore. Could do a full session on that question, Chrissy.
Yeah. I really like
Also, oh, sorry, I was just going to say, with the lesson plans as well, they're in such detail that our lesson plans are written because we're not assuming that everybody is a subject expert in that particular subject that they're teaching. So those lesson plans are designed to help everybody through those activities. So even if you sort of think, I'm not sure about fluency in maths or mastery, the structure of the lesson plan will really guide you through it as well, whether you choose to follow all of it or parts of it.
And I think actually for me, the diving into mastery is a really good one. If I've used maybe not the lesson pack that's taught that particular aim, and then I'm just looking at something I can just pop out on the table to kind of work out whether my children have understood it. And they're a lot more open-ended as well, I think, for diving into mastery things. And therefore, I think that they're really good even just to kind of pop back in and think, you know, a few weeks later, well, do they remember those things that we did? And, you know, provide them as activities. And like you say, with the varying levels as well, they can choose, you know, my eldest can choose which one he feels like, you know, he can do. And I think they're a really good element and a really good aspect of the Maths Planet packs. Absolutely.
And Chrissy, just the final thing I pick up on the mastery, you know, you were saying about manipulatives, and
yes,
it, again, having worked on mastery for a long time, we've painstakingly really tried to make the visuals represent those, and so keen for those to be run throughout, right from year 1 to year 6, and ensure that the activities are encouraging children to get, you know, those concrete resources out. And so again, I think if you're really keen, which it sounds like you are, and I think most people would be, wouldn't they? And we do have those visuals and suggested activities that do encourage using those manipulatives in the pack as well.
I think that's a really big point, because I do think that my personal view, obviously I'm not a math specialist, but I do think that as the children get older, we do take those manipulatives away. And I think for me, in terms of, I really want my children to enjoy maths. And I think, you know, I don't want to digress, but I think as adults, it's quite socially acceptable to do, I can't do maths. And I feel really passionate about not, you know, that not being my kids. And I think sometimes, you know, it's to do with the fact that it can be really abstract maths and actually really put people off. You know, when they're at school. And I think, you know, one of the great things about home ed, and this isn't going to descend into a home ed versus school, but I think what the great thing is we can continue to use those manipulatives, and I'm using them, you know, with my older child, and I just think they can still see, therefore, you know, on the paper what it actually means in real life, and therefore I think it gets him to really buy into maths a lot more. And so I really like that part of the Planet Maths packs. So that leads me on to the next question for Gemma, and that is there kind of a good order to use Planet in?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'd probably start actually with the maths, because we've obviously we've touched on it there, haven't we? So as you can see on the screen, like you say, the maths does look differently when you go into that, and it is sort of, I think previously it would have been quite overwhelming because the lessons didn't appear to be in order, but I know that Lisa has actually restructured it so that you do go in and you can see the suggested order. Again, there's nothing ever set in stone, but I think when you've got so many lessons, it can feel a bit overwhelming, thinking, well, where do I start? So the best place, if you're looking for some kind of guidance as to the order to teach them in, is these steps to progression documents, and they have a really nice, you can sort of see it a bit there, a little overview of the year, of when it might be a good idea to teach each topic. But again, it depends which way whether you're going to be topic led, or again, it's just a suggestion. And then it does have the lessons, and again, a suggested order of how you may want to teach those lessons, so that you've got those skills and concepts building up on each other throughout that topic area, whether it's place value, whether it's whichever area you're studying. And the other one, again, brilliant one, being really popular. I worked with Alistair on this one, but I didn't work. But I looked at this with Alistair when it was released, and it's a home educator's curriculum map. I know it's been really popular. It's had loads of downloads there, but
I've literally just put an example of a step to progression in the chat, but also that home ed curriculum overview. And I think that is, it still remains to be our most downloaded item, particularly, you know, on a week by week basis, you know, because it is such a great resource, but I'll let you explain it. But yeah, I put it in.
No, I mean, feel free. Honestly, Chrissy, you go for it and explain it, because
Well, basically it's the same sort of idea that we've kind of thought that, you know, particularly people who children have come out of school and they've gone through you know, that process, and parents or caregivers are a little bit anxious about, well, what should I be doing? And they maybe their child, due to SEN needs, want quite a particularly structured approach because it works for them, or they feel that that's the best way for them. It basically provides you with, you know, every subject, every term, and what you can do in each of those. And it's all hyperlinks that takes you straight over to the PlanIt packs. And I think it's a really useful resource for how PlanIt can be used by home editors.
Yeah, I completely agree. So it's just really handy to have it all in one place, isn't it, with the links through to there. And I think you put the link on the chat as well. And the other two documents just on here is the unit overviews. So the foundation maths doesn't come with this because that's replaced by the steps to progression, but the other areas, English doesn't either. Again, that sort of sits quite differently at English, but the rest of the areas do have these unit overviews. So each unit, each topic will have this, and it sort of shows you the resources that you may need, the lessons that you're going to be looking at, the topics that you're going to be covering, and a little bit of an overview of what's in each of those lessons as well. And the other one, just to mention, we do have these progression maps. Again, they may be of interest to people, they may not, but it might be worth just having a look at them. We've got these for most of the subjects, and it sort of maps out the skills and concepts of the curriculum, and puts them in a progressive way of what, I suppose, how you would expect, what progress could possibly look like for children. And again, they do very much link to the national curriculum, those progression maps. So it may be of interest to some, but not to others.
I think what's quite good about those, though, is that you can actually see the expectations according to the national curriculum, and you can have that at the back of your mind then with whatever you're choosing to do yourself. So they are quite useful as to have in the background, to have that knowledge as well. It is quite nice to see the progression, I think.
I think for me also, I always come at it, and I've said this so many times, is I always come at anything with what skills am I teaching my child? Am I teaching them a skill of explanation or evaluation or research or reading or a mathematical? What skill am I trying to you know, achieve? And I think, you know, those overviews in particular, and like you say, you know, you don't have to follow the national curriculum, but looking at the national curriculum aims are in all of those documents helps you actually pinpoint the skills that the PlanIt pack, those particular module is trying to kind of develop. And I think, you know, it also helps with trying to work out, well, that bit I'm going to do and that bit I'm not going to do. And it kind of helps the start of the planning process when you're sort of trying to work something out. And also, if you suddenly get, you know, your child at 11 o'clock saying, "Mummy, I really want to," so today's was, "Mummy, I really want to dissect a daffodil and learn all about the different parts of the plant." So there I was on Twinkl, like, I'm sure there's a PlanIt pack on that, and we could do a lesson on that. And I think
wasn't there.
when you're you know, madly trying to find whatever it is, again, they're really good to try and get a brief overview of, right, what is this pack, so that you're not sort of getting completely lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. So Gemma, do you have any ebooks available that support any of the subjects, and how can these be used?
Yes, as you can see, right, I do get quite excited about the ebooks because I am extremely passionate about children reading, and I did read to I read to both children, but my son, I'd still read to him stories, Podkin one ear and everything, till he was about 14, and then he sort of said I wasn't allowed to anymore. So yeah, we do have plenty of ebooks. We've got them available in PlanIt English, and if you find them in PlanIt English, you will also find packs that run alongside them. So you might find some what we call guided reading packs, which have really lovely hands-on activities, you know, for them that link to the book. So they might be questions, they might be activity sheets, they could all sorts of ideas of things that you can do linked to the story. If your child is enjoying the story, it's nice to have some suggested activities. And then on the next slide, I think we've got the science ebooks. again, these, well, as we update, you may notice we are in the process again of updating all of our science units, because again, there's nothing particularly wrong with them, but they've been there for a while, and we really want to, we've been updating them to have ebooks and other resources, which I know we're going to talk about in a while. But yeah, each of those has an ebook that runs alongside it, and then the PowerPoint has that little icon that you can see just there. So when you click on that, the PowerPoint then expands and it goes into the page of the ebook, where they can just, I suppose it's trying to, it's not the same as a book in their hands, but it's trying to give them that feel where they can turn the pages and when they can turn back, and it just feels very, it's got the spine in there. So yeah, it's looking at non-fiction, and it feels as much like a book, I suppose, as we can give without having to print it off or buy the book. Or you could just look at them on their own. The books, again, they're really nice. They're quite meaty, some of them, but they do go slightly, what we'll call slightly beyond the curriculum, because the idea is that the children are just interested in exploring just real interesting facts about that topic.
And are they sort of accessible for the child to read, or are they more for the adult to read? Are they sort of pitched at the rough sort of reading level of that age?
It's a really good question, Chrissy. They're not like the Rhino readers, you know, where they are pitched at that age group. So the animals all around, I think that's a Y1. So we have, you can't really see the text then, but we've looked at the text and thought they are pitched. It's a bit in between, Chrissy, I'd say. They're not aimed at being independent readers, and they're certainly not aimed at the phonics for that age range. We've gone more with the science content, and like the scientific vocabulary doesn't go massively beyond the age range in there. But yeah, we have looked at the amount of text on a page as well, so it's not overwhelming for children looking at it as well.
I'm going to ask you another question. Where do you find these? Because I, as a user of PlanIt, I've never seen these. I'm quite enjoying it. I have children who love non-fiction books, and I think that, you know, there's quite a limited amount, you know, for particular topics out there, and so I'm really excited that actually we have these on site, and you've taught me something as well, so I didn't even know that they were there. So how do I find these? Are they separately there, or is there any way you can find where all of those ebooks are, or are they particularly linked to packs?
So there's two ways to find them, really. Probably the hardest way to find them, if you can, I wonder if, Louise, are you able to screen share again? Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
I'm going off script, ladies.
Thank you, Louise. So if you go into, can you see Key Stage 1, Louise, at the top, and then into Science? If you navigate across to Science, and then if you click on there, and if you go into Science eBooks on that, on the turquoise, if you go into there, you find all of them all in one place. They are PlanIt, but we just felt you can find them in the topics as well, you know, on PlanIt. So that one obviously would be in the Year 1 plants topic on PlanIt, and the next one would be in the Year 2, and they'd be on that page as well. But I just thought it'd be handy to have them all in one place. And the same, Louise, if you go into Key Stage 2 and you go across to Science, and then if you go into Science eBooks, they're all in there. So we've not got as many for Key Stage 2 at the moment, but it's just quite handy to have them all in one place as well. So yeah, that's where whenever we make a new one, the newest one, which I'm really excited about, is Mini Beast Biodiversity.
Oh wow!
Which is a fab book learning about sustainability, and as you can tell, I'm quite passionate about them, so I will be quiet now and go back to the script.
I didn't even know that they existed, so I'm definitely checking those out, because I think the Rhino readers are great. You know, they have a lot of lovely non-fiction stuff for children willing to read on their own, but actually sometimes you're looking for particular books that hit a topic, and that looks like it definitely does that. I know that there's some questions coming up in the chat. We will get to those at the end, so don't feel like I'm not answering your questions. But I have a question for Louise, and that is that lots of home educators like to use games and videos, and so, you know, what can PlanIt offer with regards to that?
Thank you. There's lots that PlanIt can offer here. Basically, we have a section of the website called Go, and it relates to games, interactive activities, animations. So if I talk about the games first, so it's a collection of games that are perfect for use at home. Some of them are more an activity than a game, and some are more and sort of game based. A lot of the activities are self-marking, so they can be great for children to be able to use on their own. All of the resources are iPad friendly. They work on most internet enabled devices and they work on smartphones. All you really need is an internet connection. They don't use any more bandwidth than a YouTube video does, so they're quite easy to access in that sense. And it's also browser based rather than app based, so you don't need to download anything. You can just click and go. Lots of the PlanIt subjects have these interactive games, and some of them have quizzes as well that support the learning in the individual units. And it's just really nice to be able to kind of bring the learning alive and you know, really sort of be able to get into something in a different way. The quizzes are really easy to set up. They can be a great way to introduce a topic, or if you wanted to use them to maybe get a snapshot of progress and see if there's anything else you need to teach in that area. They're simple enough for the children to understand right away, so they can be a really quick, effective tool to use. To find them, you can find the games in the main Go section of the website, and it's a bit like PlanIt. You can just literally type Go into that top bar and the Go page will come up, and that will give you all the games that you can find on the Twinkl site. But also there are also ones in some of the individual PlanIt units as well, which are specifically linked to those units too. Another thing I absolutely love is some of the Twinkl Go animations. They are incredible and they're so lovely to watch. They can really sort of help bring that learning alive and make it more exciting. And they can be found in a few different places on the site. Just like with the games, if you type Go into the search bar, it takes you to all our interactive resources, and you can search there by age and subject. And it is worth being aware that the standalone games and resources and animations do actually sit at a higher subscription level than PlanIt and are only available to Ultimate subscribers. PlanIt Science also has animations that link to the topic again. So those can be found underneath the lesson packs in the PlanIt unit page, or they've also been grouped together in some categories that Chrissy will be sharing in the chat as well. One other interactive feature that we have, which again are incredible, is augmented reality 3D models. And some of the PlanIt history units now include 3D models, and they're a really great way to engage children and help them to explore. And you can see here some of the ones are on the screen. You can go and look into that street for the Great Fire of London, or go and take a tour around Stonehenge, and they're really exciting. And we've only got those to link specifically to the PlanIt units in history at the moment. But if you go to the general AR page, the Learn and Explore page, you can actually find lots of others on there too. There are some amazing geography ones that can be used alongside some of the PlanIt units too.
Amazing. I do like the 3D models. They are really great. So and again, you teach me more things. I didn't realise that. I knew all about the Go games. We like Go games, but I didn't know about those animations. So I'm definitely going to go.
Yeah, there are some amazing science ones, and geography ones will be coming soon. They are on their way.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we've got various monuments as well. We've got various monuments from France at the moment, but hoping some Spanish ones to come soon as well, so you can kind of have a look around up close.
Excellent. That's lovely. Bethan, what other resources might home educators find useful?
Well, within the PlanIt units, there are loads of different resources that are really great. So on the next slide here, there should be some pictures of some of the things that you can see. And something that we all really love are our knowledge organisers. And we find these really great. They're great to write, but they're also absolutely brilliant for all stages, because they can be a poster, they can just be a table mat, or just something to just use for some revision, or, you know, even if you don't want to access any of the other content in the unit, this alone will give you some brilliant information. They work perfectly alongside the PlanIt packs because they cover all of the language that's in the lesson, or all of the key concepts that you'll find within that lesson. Or vocabulary, information, etc. It's more on the sort of knowledge rather than the skills here. So great for retrieval and supporting learning and general long-term memory. Most PlanIt packs across all subjects have got these, and if they haven't, they're being added to constantly. And some subjects have even got interactive versions where, you know, you can possibly link to a Go game, or you can link and kind of link to different areas of the website, or some are also editable that you can kind of move around and change yourselves as well. They're great for discussion. You can see there's a computer science one that's there, computing one, and you know, that's already just, you know, with mentioning the things that are there are great springboards for discussion in some of those, or for language learning. You know, we obviously have them for French and Spanish, but for all subjects they're really, really useful, and they're also visually appealing as well. They're really colourful. And then based on these knowledge organisers, sorry.
No, I was just saying, some people like to do like a nice big display before they do a topic, and I think it'd be really great to kind of print off and have. And I also think that they're really good to come back to at the end of a topic, because they show that, you know, your young person how much they've actually kind of learned as well. So they're really.
Yeah, and again, you know, as with all of these things, we allocate them to year groups or to units, but it's very much down to the age of the child and what suits you and your home setting and how you want to deliver them. But they are really nice reference materials as well for you as well to kind of look at, to just see what's being covered. You know, they're quite handy to have alongside you. So this
Before
is
you
just
move on, Beth-Anne, I'm just wondering, is it worth mentioning, with Chrissy saying about how some home educators like to create a big display, is it worth just mentioning that in each of the PlanIt packs there's also an additional resources pack which includes display materials for every unit, so those are worth bearing in mind as well if you do like to create those displays.
Especially if you want for every subject, you can fill your walls up quite quickly. But yeah, they come with banners, you know, all depending on the subject, there'll be different things, but there's usually a banner, often a book cover, word mats, all sorts of things based on the topic, things that you can print off and make, you know, a great big floor book from, or something like that. There's lots of options to do with those, even if it's not a display.
Are the knowledge organisers in each pack?
Yeah, so they're within each unit, you'll find them.
Okay, that's lovely.
And then as well, many subjects have got them grouped into packs as well, you know, according to year groups for school. But obviously they're easiest to access them just within each unit, depending on what you're looking for, really.
Thank you.
And then based on those, we have quiz packs. And these are brilliant because they're really fun. You can use them to start off. You can use them to kind of recap some knowledge at the end. But they kind of base entirely on the knowledge organizer and the content of the lessons and in that PlanIt unit. And it comes with a PowerPoint quiz and then the actual quiz questions on a sheet as well. So you've got the option then to kind of do it electronically or to do it on paper. But, you know, it can be done if you wanted to do some slightly more formal testing at home, or if you just wanted to play a fun quiz, it's a really nice way to do that as well. And also some subjects have these as interactive quizzes as well, using the Go format, so they can be played. So it's a really nice way to use the knowledge organizer as a sort of extension of all the learning that's there as well. Or if you kind of want to recap something as well, they're brilliant, or just, you know, just for a nice activity when you're looking for something that's not quite a lesson, but you are looking to embed something there. And you can see the little orange dots there on this, because this is a language one. Those are our sound files. So all the language ones come with sound files as well. So those are two things that we've got. As well as that, we're adding constantly to interactive PDFs. So the PlanIt packs come with, they're called home learning tasks, but they tend to be just really, you know, something that could be set as homework or could be just done at any point, you know, so for schools to set as homework or to be done at any point to support the lessons. But we've discovered that these can now be also produced in interactive PDF formats. And then many subjects, particularly science, have got lots of additional interactive PDFs as well as the homework versions, the home learning versions as well. And this is a great example. These lovely ones here, they're for younger children and older children, and you can click and change the words, and you know, it'll give you the options. You can fill everything in there yourselves, and you do it all in there. So it's great because they're paper free. So that's a really nice aspect of it as well. And it's just a fun way of doing it, because they'll work on a tablet, you know, they come with instructions, or on the computer, and it can be a fun way to not print off a worksheet. So it's just a slightly more enjoyable way of using a worksheet, and it comes with full instructions on how to use them. But those are really nice activities, and an area that we're looking to develop across our provision in general. I mean, Gemma, I know you've got lots of these for science, haven't you? I think you're probably the biggest provider of interactive PDFs, and these are lovely examples of those. But they're we've certainly got a few in languages, and we're constantly trying to add to them all the time.
I think there's been quite a few added for RE as well.
Okay, so they've got them in RE. Yeah, they've got them from each topic in science and in history as well. Like say, you've got them in RE as well.
But certainly they're really nice, just because it's just no printing for a start. As well as all of that, we've also got assessments that are offered across a range of different subjects. The maths one, as you can see, actually comes with baseline assessment toolkits as part of that as well, because as we discussed, maths does kind of fit into its own category to an extent with some of this, but you don't, there's no obligation on you to do any formal testing at home, but if you wanted to, these are really nice ways to do that, just to kind of keep your own record. If you have a large folder that you're just keeping these things in, and you can see where the children are at, or just simply you don't have to use them as a test. They could just be a nice worksheet also. But we have these across subjects too, and they are really nice to sum up the learning in a unit.
And we also sometimes get asked, my child's just come out of school and I don't really know what those gaps are, what they've missed, what they're good at, what they, I think actually can use them for that as well, if that's appropriate for you.
Absolutely. And I think, these days with people so involved in social media, particularly children, they're aware of what's going on. If they're aware of their peers having tests at school or having, SATs or those sorts of things, it may well be that you want to give a little test at home just to give them that experience of it. Potentially, you never know. I mean, people sometimes do, because if they end up sitting in, I come at this from a secondary point of view, you see, as well, because and having chatted to Alistair from HomeEd about this, and preparing children, and also myself within our language groups on social media, chatting with some HomeEd is about preparing their children to go into school to sit a GCSE. It's absolutely terrifying to go in and fit that structure. So I advocate occasionally slipping, the structure of a test in, just simply to get that concept in. I'm not saying test your children concept, but it is quite nice to understand sometimes how these work, because at some point there will be some need to sit an exam, and it's just I think it's not in dispute that there's an awful lot of testing and an awful lot of testing that doesn't always need to happen, but sometimes the odd bit can be quite helpful, not always from the content point of view, but just sometimes from a concept, from just sitting down and just attempting something like that can be quite handy.
And can I just add to the assessment a little bit, because obviously they were shown test, and again, but within PlanIt there's so many opportunities to do the ongoing, which you're always doing, you're always questioning, and whether you call it assessment, we don't call it, but we've got we call them the green questions, and we have a little quiz bit that goes in all the a lot of the packs, and that's just the ongoing. Assessment doesn't seem like the right word for it really, but it says key questions that you might want to ask, as you go along, or the key things that children would hopefully that they might want to explore further, or again it's just a key question that you as a parent you might think, I really would like the child to learn that, like you've been doing about parts of the plant, and it might just be a key question where can you name me, can you tell me what that bit of the plant's called. So we do have different forms of assessment. These are what I suppose are called the summative assessments, and then we have what was called the formatives, which are those key questions that run throughout as well.
And also those key questions, they tend to be based on the aims and success criteria, and inside each pack there is actually a printable set of aims and success criteria. So if you just wanted to keep a record of those questions, they can all be found there as well, which is quite handy.
There's good suggestion in the chat. Someone calls it a roundup rather than assessment.
A roundup. Do you know what? That is a brilliant way to phrase it, actually. I'm going to retitle those, actually. It is really good.
Yeah. That's lovely. Right. I don't have any more questions, but I don't know if you mind hanging around while I ask some questions from the chat. we have had a few of them going. So I'm just going to scooch all the way back because I've been sharing lots and lots of links in the chat. So I just need to. So the first question is: are there any suggestions within each topic or lesson of how you can adapt it for a child with special educational needs?
Again, that's a really good question and something that we're looking at in a lot more detail at the moment, aren't we, Louise? We've got some meetings this week. We do have the differentiation in every pack, which again I would say does provide some support and some ideas for extension in there. Unfortunately, the lesson plans aren't editable at the moment, and again that's something that we're hoping to look into for future lessons that we write. But yeah, I would suggest that in there that at the moment I would say to look at the ideas for the support and the extension. I don't know, Louise, or Bethan, is there anything else that you would suggest?
The only thing I'd add to that is just, again, thinking about that stage rather than the age. There's nothing to stop you jumping around between the different packs. And if you feel that reaching for a higher level or reaching for a lower level is likely to suit the children that you're working with more, then that can be a good way of using it to support different children, and picking and choosing. There's nothing to stop you using the PowerPoint, but then going on to do a different activity that's more suitable for the child that you're working. You don't have to work through the packs. You can use it to the way that best suits you.
That is actually something I was going to jump on. So I have both my children have SEN needs, and particularly my eldest, because of his dyslexia, and he really struggles with a lot of the written elements of things. So actually some of the things we would just use as a discussion and chat about it, rather than maybe using it for what it was aimed for. And then I would potentially then do a slightly different activity. I like the idea of those interactive sheets. I'm going to go and check out those because again, I would add in other little bits, like we've got the Go games and all of those things. So definitely, hopefully you can work out something that would work. And also a lot of the worksheets are differentiated according to level as well. So you have a slightly more scaffolded sheet, which is sort of the different stars, which is like a 1 star, and then like the next sheet, which is 2 stars, and then sort of a bit more of a independent thing with like the 3 stars. Feel free to chip in if I'm getting this wrong, but that again,
absolutely.
And work out that level with a lot of the resources. A lot of the packs have a particular piece of work, and it's already at various at different levels depending on your learner.
So I'm thinking. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of my own subject here, where we're planned out because it's a sort of progressive scheme that would start because you learn a little bit of language and then you're building and building. There's nothing, as Louise said, to stop you just focusing on the earlier packs. You don't have to reach the end ones or to ever get there at all, because you pick what suits you within that. So sometimes learning about some topics within that, and learning if you are learning French, or just learning some names for some animals to count and some of those things is absolutely fine, and there isn't need to then explore it and start learning how to say something in the past as well that would take it then to a different level and makes it more inaccessible.
The only other thing I was going to add to that is that they do have at the end of the lesson plans as well, a lot of them do have suggestions for alternative activities or other ways of learning that you can use as well. So those might be good ways for if you feel the original activity that's planned for the lesson isn't going to work, there might be suggestions of more active activities or different ways of doing it, and they often contain links to other things that you might be able to use too.
Another question is the PlanIt approach good for the UK only, or is this method can be used for effective home education in other countries? So I'm happy to answer that and say that different countries have different sort of criteria on what they deem as an effective home education. Obviously in the UK, we are expected to provide an education that is, relevant and fits the child's needs. There's no need for home educators to follow the national curriculum. But obviously I know that other countries have very, very different approaches to how, how they're monitored and what the expectation is. So I would say that PlanIt, is a great resource and can be used all over the world. But whether it would tick a box with whoever monitors your home education in your country, I wouldn't be able to say, because as I said, I am well aware with friends in other countries that some countries are far stricter on what they want with regards to assessment, what they want with regards to evidence than we are in the UK. So I hope that kind of answers it in a way that I can't quite answer it. But it's definitely...
Christy, I did notice the other day as I was doing a little exploring that the the home ed curriculum overview that has been released, I think, for the Australian curriculum.
Yes, they have. Yes, so they're sort of starting to adapt that over in Australia. Absolutely. Yeah. So another question was, does the PlanIt resources fall under paid monthly or yearly package? And I think that Lizzie's been in the chat already answering that you can access PlanIt with extra, beyond and ultimate, both monthly and annual. So I think that one's been answered. And
there are taster packs as well that I think you've shared, haven't you, Christy, as well, that there are taster packs for you to go and have a good look at as well, and you can kind of really pull them apart and actually, better than us showing you the links, actually go and look at them and see what's there and see what's available.
Yeah, definitely. So then there was another question about, is Twinkl Go an app or just on the website?
So it is web-based, so you don't have to log into an app to be able to access Twinkl Go. It's completely web-based, so you don't have to use the app. There are some apps available for the augmented reality, but I believe at the moment that they only work on Apple devices and not other devices. So it can be better to use those tools via the website if you don't have that kind of access.
And just to mention the PlanIt spelling program, which is obviously PlanIt, that does have an app that links to it as well. That has a spelling app, which is really good from the spelling app, and that is also web based as well.
Yeah, I think being web based is definitely a winner, because then you don't have the kind of, is it on Google or is it on Apple? Some of our apps are already available on certain formats and some aren't for various reasons, so it's great that they are definitely web-based, which is always a winner. So if anybody has any other questions, then do please put them in the chat. I think we've pretty much reached the end of the questions that have been asked. Obviously, if you're watching on catch up and you do have any other questions, then right at the beginning of the comments, I did put an email address that you can contact us over, and I will pose those questions to PlanIt and to Louise, Gemma and Bethan. And also, if you are watching on live, just to say, because we've shared lots of lovely links in the chat, so you need to click below where it says live chat, and it will show you the chat as if you were watching live. I don't think that there are any other questions. I just want to say thank you so much for your time and so much. There's lots of love in the chat that they've learned so much, and I didn't know how much Twinkl. My mind is blown. I've had a subscription for ages and ages, and I've clearly not been using Twinkl to its full capacity. So absolutely, really thank you so much, ladies, because I think PlanIt has so much to offer for people that want that structure, but also want to dip in, and even, those Twinkl Go games and all of those things, and the science books, which I'm going to definitely go and check out shortly.
I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? You're not constrained at all as home editors with how you use it. And I think it can be quite scary at first, because there's a lot of it there and you look at it and you think, oh, it says national curriculum, it's not going to apply to me. But dive in, use what you want from it. And there's plenty there, and more than enough for you to make your own home learning experience from what we have. You don't have to follow the format. You can use it in any way you want. And hopefully there are enough supporting resources to be really helpful as well.
Definitely think so. And I think, you don't even if you think, right, well, I want to do plants, and then you look at it and go, well, actually, I don't want to do that lesson, and I don't want to use that resource, and I don't want to do that bit. I think, you know, it's great. I think it's really hand holding when you're worried that you're not doing enough with your children. But I also think, you know, I say this over and over again to people that, you know, don't be put off because it looks really structured, because there's just so much there, particularly with the knowledge organisers and the Twinkl Go games, and, you know, all of those things, and the animations, which I didn't even know you had either. So I've learned 2 things today, which I'm going to go and check out.
Please, Chrissy, do watch the Etta and Grandbot. They do they might provide you with a bit of a chuckle.
Oh, okay, that's the one I'll start with. But as I said, once again, thank you so much for taking the time this evening to chat to us home educators. We really do appreciate it. So thank you again, and hopefully we'll see you at some of our other webinars. I hope you have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.